On this episode of Locked On Canadiens, did Patrik Laine just get Kevin Adams fired?
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to episode 1207 of Locked On Canadiens. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day and for subscribing wherever you get your podcast. Doing that supports the show and ensures you don't miss an episode. Today's episode is brought to you by Bilt Rewards. Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNHL. My name is Ian Boisvert, also known as @MaybeIt'sIan, also known as the president of the Patrik Laine fan club. And I'm joined as always by the active stick, Laura Saba. Laura, his first hat trick in a Montreal Canadiens uniform. How are we feeling after this Tuesday night shellacking of the Buffalo Sabres?
The Patrik Laine era is back. We had a quiet couple of games, and then not necessarily that he was quiet. He had 8 shots on goal against Winnipeg. He wasn't quiet. It's been a quiet time for the Patrik Laine fan club, I should say. Honestly, what an amazing game. We are going to talk about the Sabres a little bit later and the other aspects of the game, but Patrik Laine honestly seems to be thriving as a Montreal Canadien. He is understanding the assignment in all aspects of the world. Not only that, it seems like he's bringing some players back, right? Players that we were concerned about, players that we were asking questions about. Turns out all they needed was to be clicking with someone, right? So we talked about special teams in our weekly recap. Yes, it was the weekly recap, not the forecast. We talked about a bunch of stuff, and I don't want to say that Patrik Laine is like the savior and cure for everything on this team. I'm just here to point out that everything has gotten better since he got here.
Yeah,
you should throw Primo in goal again. Just put Patrik Laine around him and see if it works.
What's so funny about Laine's start is he has admitted several times, and you can see it, especially at 5-on-5, he's not up to full speed yet. And no one expected him to be. And that's what, his 5-on-5 play is coming along. You can see it in spurts, but he still looks like he's going at 60% speed most of the time. That's why I think he's making a conscious effort to make the most out of his power play opportunities, because he can just do his best Alex Ovechkin impression and just score a ton of goals. Every goal he has as a Montreal Canadien is from the same spot on the ice. It's from that same hash mark. And it's so nice. Like Cole Caufield, we're going to talk about him in the third segment and sort of, the new dynamic that the Canadiens have, especially on that power play, and how it impacts the way that Cole Caufield can play. But Cole Caufield has a great shot. It has never been as automatic as Laine's from that one spot. Cole Caufield can score off the rush. He can score from the other side. Laine is he's automatic from that spot so far. He hasn't taken a ton of shots from there, and a lot of them are going in. It's nice to see that he's getting those opportunities while he's still getting the rest of his game up to speed, because it's not, it's the opposite of that is what we've seen with Kirby Dach to start the season, right? Where he doesn't have that one skill, especially on the power play, where he can be sedentary, where he can just dominate there, pick up points, build that confidence, right? He doesn't have that skill set. So for Laine to have that, it's going to keep his confidence up and the team's confidence up while he gets back up to speed. It might not be until, later this season or early next season before he's up to full 5-on-5 speed again. But if this is the Laine we're getting right now, the Laine we're going to get when this guy can actually move is going to be incredible.
Honestly, it's not that I didn't think that he was a good player. I did not have that same attachment to him that you did, in that you always felt that he would be a good addition on this team. Not just because you're a fan of his, but because there are so many things that he could bring to this team. And now I'm starting to come around on that. I mean, I was excited to have Patrik Laine in Montreal just because, that's an exciting thing to happen. A player getting traded here. Not only that, accepting to be traded here, being excited to come here. The Canadiens did not give up that much, and the way that Hughes positioned it as a reward for all the other guys, I bought all of that. But what I really wasn't, Patrik Laine was never somebody that I ever saw being on this team in any iteration of it, right? Not the Marc Bergevin Montreal Canadiens, not the Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton Montreal Canadiens. He's just not a guy that I believed would be a factor at all in this equation, in this vision, right? And now I'm already saying, like, can they keep him past his contract?
That has been on the back of my mind every single time he scores is they can extend him this summer. They can extend him this summer. I don't know that they will, but they can.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like something Kent Hughes would do, to be honest, like a guy with his age, but like he's not even that old. He's 26 years old.
He's right. He fits right in with the core of this team. I mean, Suzuki's 24, right?
Yeah.
Like we're not that far off.
Yeah. You got to make a decision at the end of this year, though. Like this is something where like I feel like they'll wait to see how the draft weekend plays out before they like make a decision like this. And obviously you can't sign him until July 1st, blah, blah, blah. But all of this to say, like the way that he has fit in on the ice, it's not just him embracing this market. It's not just him being excited to play again. It just feels like all of them love playing with him. And I know it's a short time. And I know there's so many haters out there that'll say, he'll start complaining like sooner rather than later. I don't think that's fair. I think that, when you're in a situation that you can do your best as well as you are being accepted, and there was a lot of talk around the time that he was in Winnipeg that he wasn't the issue, right? And then with Columbus, it seemed mostly out of his hands, right? Like an injury, mental health issues, like that's not something that he can control, right? Like that's not something where he's complaining. But to find a situation where not only do you have value on the ice, or do you bring value on the ice, or is it bringing out, what you're good at? It's bringing out something that you're able to do, and it's something that you feel like you lost your touch, but also just the way the team has embraced, welcomed, included, all of that with him, right? So like maybe that's all he needed. He needed to get the help that he needed for his mental health issues. He needed to have the support, but he also needed to be in the right situation. And I think it's so important not to discount that. And I think it's so important also not to say, oh, he's just going to start complaining, because I look at this and I'm like, this is him just coming back from an injury, right? He's a forward, right? Like his prime is what, 26, which he is now 27, 28. Some of them, like it even lasts until they're 29, right? So we're just about to see his prime. I only see positive things. If the Canadiens keep investing in him, and you can see like the Canadiens have success stories when they invest either in a person's ability or a person, you can see how that like the best comes out in them, right? And so I feel like for me, like this right now, I'm excited. I feel like he fits in. I feel like Patrik Laine, Montreal Canadien, is like, it's a meant to be.
Yeah, no, it feels like a perfect fit. I mean, one of the things I've really enjoyed so far is the somewhat rivalry between him and Juraj Slafkovsky. During the second intermission on TSN, Juraj Slafkovsky said, "Well, it was louder for my hat trick, but it's not a big deal." The way that they kind of barb each other is great. And to move on from Patrik Laine, who's obviously the number one story coming out of that game, I think the number two story here is Juraj Slafkovsky. He picks up a goal and an assist in this one. I know that people will say, oh, the goal he scored was garbage. That was an intentional bank shot. He understood the assignment on that play. He got the goalie was completely out of position. He saw the opportunity to bank it off of him. He took it. What are you going to do?
Well, yeah, and weren't we just criticizing him for not following his instincts recently?
Yeah. Yeah. I thought Slav had a great game. I thought he made some other great passes from behind the net. There was also a very underrated play where a pass was coming to him in the slot, but a Sabre was about to intercept it. He got the jump on Slafkovsky, and instead of trying to fight him for the puck, Slafkovsky just timed a perfect stick lift to let the puck go through him and go to Mike Matheson behind him. Now, did Mike Matheson fire the puck off the glass? Yes, he did. But that's
the thing. That's a thing now.
Yes, of course it's a thing. I thought Mike Matheson also had a great game tonight as well, but that's, we can't talk about him every episode as much as I would like to / hate to.
We want to.
Yeah, it depends on the night. Like like this one against Buffalo, Matheson was good to fine. Like I thought he was okay.
But here's the thing, though, Ian. Every time we ask questions about a player, all of a sudden he starts playing well. We fixed Nick Suzuki. We fixed Juraj Slafkovsky. Who shall we fix next?
That's a great question. Well, maybe we'll get to that in our third segment. Maybe not fixing Cole Caufield, but trying to figure out where his goals are coming from. One last thing I want to touch on in this game, Caden goalie, man. I think the number might go up by the time folks are listening to it. because that's how NHL stats get adjusted. 7 shot blocks in this one, and he felt every single one of them. Late in the third, he took one in the ankle, and it looked like it hurt him a little bit, but he did come back. He didn't miss a shift. Caden Gooley doing his best Shea Weber impression has been really great.
I love seeing that. And I really love seeing how he looks so confident, right? Like there's something about how poised he is. And I love it. All right. That's a shout out to Kay, Madam President of the Caden Gooley fan. I need to find someone and be the president of the fan club. You guys can't just appoint yourselves like presidents of
You got to find your niche. You'll find it. You'll know when you find it.
All right.
All right. Well, we're going to move on from at least talking about Patrik Laine and maybe talking a little bit about, boy, what's going on in Buffalo, and should the Canadiens really get a full, complement of compliments after beating a lowly team like Buffalo? And we'll get into that in just a moment. The World Series, the Super Bowl, the Olympics, the Stanley Cup Final. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less, while SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. And these policies are more affordable than you think. You can get coverage for up to $1 million for as little as $20 per month. Head to selectquote.com and a licensed insurance agent will call you right away with the right policy for your life and your budget. SelectQuote. They shop, you save. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. That's selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Today's episode is also brought to you by Bilt Rewards. If you're a renter, listen up. This is a total game changer. Thanks to Bilt, you can now earn points on rent payments just like you do with groceries or travel. Paying rent now comes with serious perks, and it's completely free to join. Earn valuable Bilt points on your rent and everyday spending at no extra cost. Redeem points towards flights, hotel stays, and even future rent payments. With over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels in their program, the possibilities are endless. Access unique experiences that are exclusive to Bilt members. I love using points for travel. Bilt makes it so easy to turn rent into rewards. If you're already paying rent, why not make it work for you? Start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnhl. That's joinbuilt.com/lockedonnhl. And make sure to use our link so that they know we sent you. Don't wait. Start earning rewards today. All right, Laura, we are back. But before we jump into our next topic, we do need to remind people of two things. One, our mailbag is coming up this week. The Canadiens don't play until Friday, so we're going to try to do a full episode of mailbag questions for Friday. So send them in at Locked On Canadiens on Blue Sky, lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. You guys know where you can find us. And the other thing is our contest. We are having a contest to win, and I'm going to grab it again behind me. Hold on. This signed photo of Carey Price. If you want it, the contest is to send us your Spotify raps or any kind of, I almost said postseason podcast recaps, but anything that says we're in your top listens will do, or sending us a review that you've posted on any of your podcasting apps. That'll enter you to win this. We're running this through Christmas. That's when we'll do the final pulling, and hopefully if you're in Canada, hopefully the post situation is figured out by then, but if not, we urge some caution.
The strike has been postponed, or whatever, the action has been postponed until May. And so as of Thursday, they're resuming accepting parcels and packages because they started working today and they're clearing out the backlog. So your signed picture should get to you should you be a winner from Canada. Just really quickly to remind everybody, our email address is lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. That is where we are getting most of the entries. However, you can send them to us on Instagram as well, Locked On Canadiens, Blue Sky Locked On Canadiens. And I will confirm to you that you are entered. That's what I've been doing. Unfortunately, I missed a couple of messages on Instagram, but I grabbed them just now and confirmed your entry. So please feel free to send them to us, whatever channel you choose. Just make sure you're entered for this signed picture.
Perfect. All right. From one lottery to another, the Buffalo Sabres.
Yes.
Look, that was their 11th straight loss. I teased it in the open that Patrik Laine may have just gotten Kevin Adams fired. Mm-hmm. It's never good when the owner is joining the road trip, especially one in the winter in Montreal. That means something is going deadly wrong for the Buffalo Sabres. From the Canadiens' perspective, we talked about this in our weekly forecast about how this is a get-right game for Montreal, just like it was the last time. Should anything be taken away from that?
No.
By the fact that the Buffalo Sabres are terrible?
No, here's why. Because the players who were good in this game are the players that you are expecting to perform in every game, right?
Yeah.
You're Patrik Laine. You're Mike Matheson. You're Caden Gooley. You're Juraj Slafkovsky. You're Nick Suzuki. So it doesn't matter who the opponents are. When one of those key players is not playing well, you notice it, right? So the fact that they were all hitting on all cylinders, if the Buffalo Sabres were a better team, it still would not discount the performance that these players had, right? Maybe the score wouldn't be 6-1. Maybe the score would be 3-1. Maybe the score would be 4-2. You don't know. But they beat up on the Buffalo Sabres. That is objectively true. At the same time, your players that you're expecting to be good are usually good every game, right? Like we talk about, this guy, Caden Gooley had another great game, but it's a shame because it was overshadowed by another lopsided loss, right? This time they all came together and it still worked out. And you have to note too that these are all these players that we talk about. Like when Nick Suzuki has a bad game, the rest of the team is also having a bad game. When Mike Matheson has a bad game, everything looks like a disaster on the ice, right? So we cannot take that accomplishment of all of them being able to hit their game, hit their stride, particularly Juraj Slafkovsky, like even forgetting the Patrik Laine hat trick, which we will not, but even forgetting all of that, you can't take away from all of those things coming together, all of those performances coming together, because guess what? A lot of those players are part of your core. 2-3 years from now, you're going to be expecting night in and night out performances like that of them, right? The only difference is they're going to be backed up by better caliber players. And hopefully, if Martin St. Louis is still their coach, he'll have a lot more experience. And if it's another coach, it'll be somebody who has that potential to carry them through into a long playoff run. That's the big difference here. So you can't take that away just because the Buffalo Sabres are bad.
Yeah, all of what you said is true. My answer is much simpler. Montreal was looking up at Buffalo in the standings coming into this game. That's the only thing you need to know. Montreal did not punch down at Buffalo. They just didn't. It's not. I know Buffalo, the vibes there are terrible. They're definitely, Montreal and Buffalo are headed in different directions. I don't know if Montreal's headed up. They're at least headed sideways. Buffalo is a race to the bottom right now.
It's a spiral going below Dante's ninth circle of hell. Honestly, the vibes. And why did they bring Lindy Ruff back? Everybody pointed to that and was like, that is a stupid idea. And Buffalo went, no, it's going to work.
Yeah, Buffalo only knows how to hire people that have been in Buffalo before. They've got the old, not even old, the early 2010s Edmonton Oilers disease, where everybody is part of that inner circle. I regret to inform everybody that Mark Bergevin never played for the Buffalo Sabres, so he's not going to be the GM there, as funny as that would be.
It would be hilarious. But that's the thing too, is just because you had some beers with some guy 20 years ago does not mean that he should be coaching or managing or scouting for your hockey team.
Yeah, I also think that they need to hire a president in between the GM and the owner. Terry Pegula right now is acting as president of hockey operations for Buffalo, I think, and it shows that sort of model is disappearing, right? Montreal figured that out. I know Jeff Molson is still the president, but there's a VP in between Kent Hughes and Jeff Molson, right? Teams are figuring. Boston, look at Boston. Right? Yes, they're doing poorly now, but they were one of the models of success in the NHL for a long time. They have Cam Neely in between the Jacobs family and Don Sweeney.
Right.
These things work. It works for a reason. It gives you another guy to bounce ideas off of, someone else to build a plan, which has never been in place in Buffalo.
it gives you a person between the owner's office and the GM's office. So when the owner is walking purposefully towards the GM's office to give an opinion, somebody can get in the way and be like, I have hockey operations experience.
Right. Well, right, exactly. Like owners they made a lot of money and bought teams.
Yes.
None of that had to do with hockey.
Right.
Right.
They just got rich.
Yeah. I mean, and they, the Pagulas have done a great job with the Buffalo Bills. They've made that a destination, as Kevin Adams said in his press conference that went completely awry, which was a good point. Like the Pagula, he's kind of saying like, hey, this owner did it with this other team.
Yeah.
It seemed like he was kind of groveling for his job at that point. Like, look, Terry, you're doing a great job. It's not you, it's me. So anyway, Buffalo,
please.
Yeah, exactly. Buffalo is going to, they're going to make some changes. Like they have to. That 14 straight seasons without making the playoffs. That's Buffalo fans are way too good for that. That's not.
Yes.
It's not fair to them. It's not fair to that market. It's not fair to those players.
That too. It's just like the market, just the fans are so passionate. And I know we are running out of time in this segment, but listeners, I want to ask you a question. What is the one reason you shouldn't own an NHL team? Mine for like 15 years was if I ever owned the Montreal Canadiens, I would do everything and pull out all the stops just to get Sidney Crosby. I would mortgage the future just to have Sidney Crosby be a Montreal Canadien. So I don't know. What's yours? I don't know, Ian, if you have one, but listeners, please tell us for our mailbag. Maybe we can talk about it in our mailbag.
Yeah, I'll think of one for the mailbag. Yes. How's that?
What is the one reason you should not own the Montreal Canadiens, listeners?
Perfect. All right. We're heading into our final segment. We're going to talk about one Cole Caufield, who, since Laine has shown up on the scene in Montreal, has gone kind of quiet, especially on the power play. And we want to get to the bottom of that and figure out what happens next on this episode of Locked On Canadiens. Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. If you love sports, you're going to love Prize Picks. It's the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Whether it's hockey, football, or any of your favorite sports, Prize Picks makes it easy to get in on the action. Here's why you need to get started today. You can win up to 200 times your money on Prize Picks. Get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. No need to win. The $50 is guaranteed. Prize Picks also runs fun weekly promotions like Taco Tuesday, where select player projections are discounted up to 25%. For example, maybe this week you can look at Patrik Laine to have more than 4 shots on goal. That one seems pretty good. Or Nick Suzuki to have more than 1 assist. It's so simple to make your picks and have fun with your friends while potentially cashing out fast. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. $50 instantly. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, Laura, we are back. And I came to a realization this evening watching the game in that the power play runs through a different guy now. It runs through the end of Patrik Laine's stick. And
just totally fine.
Right. You can't argue with results. I wonder, though, what does this mean for Cole Caufield's role on that power play? Because he was the guy on that power play. Now he is no longer the guy. He is a guy on that power play, definitely. He's not being relegated to the second unit, but he's, not the trigger man anymore, at least in the current configuration of the power play. What does that mean to you, looking at Cole Caufield and the potential for him to score, 40 plus this year? Does that impact your assessment at all?
No, not really, because what's going to happen is the teams are going to figure out Patrik Laine. So then the Canadiens are going to have to alternate. Like Cole Caufield and Patrik Laine are going to have to alternate being the threat on that line. On that unit. And the reason that I say this is because it happens. It's just the law of averages. Somebody's going to figure out your power play. They have video. They can see these things. They can coach. And any good coach worth his salt is going to be looking at this, right? They're going to figure it out. Opponents are going to figure it out. So his role right now might be diminished, but I think this is something that is cyclical, right? I do sense the way that Martin St. Louis is, he just might try out Cole Caufield on the second unit, but I don't think we're in danger of that yet. I think it's just that right now, for the last, 3.5 years, teams are used to worrying about Cole Caufield on that power play. Now they have to worry about somebody else. It's going to take some time, but I don't think that it's necessarily, because I was thinking about this as well, because when you brought it up, like, why do you think, his scoring on the power play has diminished since Patrik Laine has come back. In my head, I was going to give you the same answer as I gave on Monday's episode, which was adjustments, right? Yeah. Cole Caufield is adjusting to the new reality. I just think that right now this just gives them more options. Like for me, this is just all good. It's no bad.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, it certainly hasn't hurt Caufield's bottom line. He had 2 assists in this one. He's picking up points on the goals that Patrik Laine scores. I'm sure he's not bummed about that. I think you're totally right.
To his game.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that was one of the things we're coming out of college and, getting to see him in his final World Juniors was, you could start to see, okay, maybe this guy has a little bit more playmaker in him than we gave him credit for. And you can see that at the NHL level too. He knows how to make passes through lanes. I think good goal scorers do know how to do that because they know what passes they want to receive.
Yeah.
I can only imagine that they have a good idea of where the puck is headed. It's like when Guy Carbonneau was coaching the power play in Montreal, one of the best, defensive forwards of his time coached the top power play unit in Montreal because he probably knew what made it difficult.
And it was a number one for a while too.
Long time. Him and Kirk Muller, Kirk Muller is still riding that, to be honest. We didn't even mention it when they played Washington the first time that like Kirk Muller just materialized behind the bench. I was like, I cannot believe this guy is still getting NHL work. Not that he doesn't deserve it, but just he keeps appearing places. It's wild.
And every time it's a different place.
Yeah. Yeah. I think last I saw, I thought he was in Calgary and he ends up in Washington. Anyway. So yeah, like that's sort of the example that I go with is like, when you know one skill particularly well, the inverse of it pretty well as too, even if it doesn't match up with your talent necessarily. I do think you're totally right though, regarding his, the idea that Laine is going to pull focus away from Cole Caufield. In this game, the first power play goal, Buffalo just did not get that assignment. And they sent 4 guys on top of Nick Suzuki. And all he had to do was slide a very slow pass across the ice to Patrik Laine. He could have taken 30 seconds to shoot that puck. Like there was nobody was. I couldn't believe that. Like if you're Buffalo, that's the guy you should be trying to take it away from. And sure enough, they tried that on the rest of the 5-on-4s. The 5-on-3s are different stories. That's where Laine got 2 more of his goals. So I think it's only a matter of time before teams start to correct the way that they play this power play. The problem is they're not sending guys after guys. I think they're sending guys after spots. Yeah. So I think they're going to take away that left face-off circle, and you're going to have to find Laine available in the slot for a bumper shot, or Cole Caufield coming down the other wing like Nick Suzuki does, right? Like it's sort of they're going to have to get creative eventually because teams adjust. The more tape that they get on Patrik Laine, the Montreal Canadien, the more tape they're going to have, the more opportunities to see him and opportunities to find ways to shut him down are going to come up. So it's only a matter of time before that happens, and the Canadiens need to be ready for that moment.
Yeah, I think like for me, this presents itself as an opportunity rather than a challenge, right? This is an opportunity to get creative. It's an opportunity to practice. It's an opportunity to have those conversations with Martin St. Louis, right? Like we saw them so much when he first was hired. Like everybody was zooming in practice of him, like showing a guy like a set play or something like that.
Yeah,
I think this is time for that, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that because the 3 players you just mentioned, Nick Suzuki, Cole Caufield, Patrik Laine, like those players are talented enough and smart enough, and they have enough hockey sense to make that adjustment successful.
Yeah, I would imagine as a coach and as a player, it's a lot easier for you to talk about those kinds of adjustments right after you just beat the brakes off of someone 6-1 and you scored 3 power play goals, right? Like it's so much harder to do that after a loss. Like if they're going to take the tape in and be like, okay, now that we know Laine is going to be open this whole time, we're going to find you in spots available. Yeah. And who's got to be ready to get him the puck? Juraj Slafkovský. Because that's good. Those are lanes that are going to be open for him. This is Laine coming onto this scene and being this immediate offensive threat is going to open up so many options for the rest of these guys, not only on the power play, but eventually at 5-on-5 when he gets up to speed again.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just a really exciting time to be a fan of this team. I know the losses have been piling up, but you can start to see the greater vision here, and it looks like it's gonna be pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. We can't get discouraged, even though it's so easy to get discouraged with like the 9-2 loss against Pittsburgh or whatever. It's just we can't get discouraged because these are the flashes that eventually will turn into a consistent expectation on this team.
Yeah,
and that's exactly. It. Like one day we're going to be looking at this team like being like, 5 nights out of 6, this is what we're going to see. Like they're going to have that odd stinker, but like 5 nights out of 6, we're going to see an effort that looks like this.
Yep. No question. All right, let's head into our trivia and then call it an episode. All right, last episode, we talked about Teru Sugimoto for a while, and I appreciate you all indulging me in that moment. It was, I really enjoyed that. The question was, Teru Sugimoto went 183rd in the 1974 NHL entry draft. Who went first? And I will give a stick tap to Paul Giardetti on YouTube, who had the answer. It's Greg Jolie, first overall by Washington. He was also first overall by the WHA Phoenix Roadrunners in the same secret amateur draft that was going on at the same time. So it's kind of silly that the NHL was like, we have to hide this prospect. And like he went first in both drafts. Both teams picked the wrong guy. I'll be honest with you. He was out of the NHL after 9 seasons, never played in the WHA. He had 2 AHL championships, but generally his career wasn't what it was cracked up to be. The Islanders, for example, drafted Clark Gillies and Brian Trottier in the first and second round. So like there were capital D dudes available in this year's in that draft, and they just didn't take them.
And there was also a fictional dude available in the draft. So.
And 2 Stanley Cup champions were picked after. It's wild to think about. The Buffalo Sabres drafted 2 players after they picked Teru Sugimoto. They picked actual guys after the fake one. One of them was Bob Geoffrion. Like,
wow.
Yeah, they picked dudes. It was anyway. I could go. This could be another hour. All right. In honor of Patrik Laine's hat trick against the Buffalo Sabres, who had the last Montreal Canadiens hat trick against Buffalo. Last Montreal Canadiens hat trick against Buffalo. You have the answer. Put it in the comments below. We'll pin whoever gets it right and shout you out on the next episode. But that's going to do it for us on this one. Thanks so much for tuning in and for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey, become a fantasy hockey expert, and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Reminder, mailbag, send in your questions. Blue Sky Locked On Canadiens, lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. Send them in. We're trying to do a full episode mailbag on Friday, so get those in. Don't forget our contest. Send in your Spotify Wraps, your positive reviews. We will enter you in the contest to win that signed photo of Carey Price. My name is Ian Boisvert. You can find me on Twitter at Maybe It's Ian. Twitter, Blue Sky at Maybe It's Ian. You can find Laura there as well. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you tomorrow.